All right, I think we're live. All right. How's everybody doing? I was just thinking today that I know I'm supposed to wait. I don't think I'll ever get used to that and just staring into the abyss and not saying anything and just ignoring anybody that comes. I'm not going to do that. So I am just going to try to get started on time. I guess next week I have a little bit of competition. I think actually Thursday rather, in a couple of days. I think there's some sort of debate going on. I don't know. So we'll see how that one turns out. A little bit of some stiff competition for the Thursday 7 p.m. slot coming up here, it sounds like. But it's great to see you guys. Great to have you. My big one viewer right now. Appreciate you joining. Thanks so much. And we're just going to have a real quick session today. It's going to go real fast, and I think I have something that's going to really bless you. And it is about energy management. Because I found myself thinking today, like, wouldn't it, like, don't you sometimes find yourself thinking, like, man, I wish life was just, like, not so easy, like I wish it was just a little bit harder, right? I don't know. I find myself thinking that all the time. It's just like, man, what should I do with my time? It's just, I have so much time. No, the truth is none of us ever think that. That would be ridiculous. Like there's never enough time, it seems. There's never enough energy, it seems. And so we just caffeinate ourselves and just try to hype ourselves up and go through the motions and go through the day, even though so many of us are just dragging, right? Life has this innate ability to just suck the life right out of us. And what I wanted to talk about today is probably one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life, and it's called an energy audit. Super cool, catchy name, I know. And the funny thing about this is for no fewer than like a year and a half, I went around teaching people this, and I ascribed the actual teaching to myself. Hey, Ka, good to have you. Thanks so much for saying hello. If you're on here, say hello, say hi. Let me know what's on your heart, on your mind. If things are helping or just a thumbs up, whatever. It's great to have you. I'm still getting used to this whole thing of just going live, having people come in and go, and it's something new for us all. So hope it's a blessing. So, but the thing about this energy audit is, for the longest time, I mistakenly told people that I had come up with it. And for a year, almost 2 years, I told people, yeah, I just came up with this thing. And then I was listening to one of my YouTube playlists, and this podcast came on with Craig Rochelle. And the whole thing was on the energy audit, and I realized that that's actually where I got this from. So, hey, Renee, great to have you. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks for saying hello. That's awesome. I appreciate that. And hope this is beneficial. I have to be honest, as far as some people lead their lives and it just seems like it's very whimsical. It's very and then the Lord led me to do this, and then God told me to do this, and I just knew that this was the right thing. This is kind of a shot in the dark. And the people, the responses that I've gotten have been overwhelming. Just a simple hello when you're here is so encouraging for me. And people have been messaging me, texts, calls, I really think I struck a nerve. Cause life is really hard. I made that little joke about how don't you wish that, sometimes life was just a little harder cause it gets boring sometimes just not having anything to do, right? No, that's not any of us. And I don't know if you've ever been in a golf cart where the battery is dying and you got the pedal to the floor just hoping you can make it back to the clubhouse, not sure if you're going to get up the next hill or not, and you're going to have to end up pushing it all the way back, right? Well, I feel like so many of us, that's how we're going through life, okay? And what I want to talk about today is recharging your battery, your life battery. How do you maintain a charge? Because so many of us, it's if you have a dead battery, like my neighbor here just had a dead battery the other day, there's no turnover, you're not going anywhere. And I feel like so many of us have drained our life battery all the way down to zero so that we can't even turn over anymore. It's just such a task to just get out of bed or to just go through the same routine. It just saps our life. And that's not how it has to be. So inherently life is difficult. 10 out of 10 of us aren't making it out of here alive. The only people without problems are in a cemetery. So as long as we're alive, as long as we're breathing, we're going to have problems, okay? But what do we do about those problems, and how do we manage our life resources? Because here's the thing. Each of us every day has a finite amount of energy, mental energy, emotional energy, spiritual energy, like the list goes on, but we have a finite amount. So if we expend our energy in places that it was never meant to be expended, it's just going to make everything harder. And so that's kind of a big time overview of what I want to talk about. But this thing that I did, that I learned from Craig Rochelle on a podcast, it changed my life. And the only thing you need is a tiny bit of self-awareness, a pen or a pencil and some paper, or a notes file on your phone. Like I write everything down on my phone. I also write stuff down on paper as well. But it's called an energy audit, and it's properly regulating and managing your life energy, because we each have such a finite amount of it. And so if we mismanage it, like any life resource, whether it's money, whether it's oxygen, whether it's relationships, like what we fail to manage, we will lose, right? What we fail to manage, we will lose. And energy and emotional energy and mental bandwidth and like even compassion or even decisions, like we have a finite. That's why so many people who are on their diets, like most people who are on a diet or trying to change an outcome of their life, change their habits, they fail toward the end of the day. And why is that? It's because psychologists have found that we actually have a finite reservoir of willpower. Right? And so Atomic Habits, best book on changing your habits you could ever read. If you only read one book on personal development or changing your habits, it's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. The best. It's not even close. They did a study because they had this hypothesis that the reason that this certain group of people were able to avoid drugs and alcohol because they were making a change in their life, or avoid snacking or avoid weight gain, they had this hypothesis that there was a part of their brain that was more developed, right? And they wanted to exploit this part of the brain. They wanted to find what part of this brain that was more developed inside of these people that had success long term versus the people that didn't. And do you know what they found? I love this study. It's one of my favorites. The people who succeeded long-term in their habits and the people who didn't there was no difference in their brain size. There was no part of the brain that was this willpower part of the brain that was more developed and that allowed them to succeed. It was the environment that they created for themselves. The people who had long-term success created an environment for themselves that supported this new change of habit in their life. I.e., if they were trying to stop drinking, they didn't fill their house with alcohol. If they wanted to stop smoking, they didn't have cigarettes laying around. If they wanted to lose weight, they didn't have junk food all around. And versus the people that didn't change their environment and just went on willpower alone, well, they had the same amount of willpower, but the one group didn't have to use it because they created an environment that they didn't have to use their willpower. So the ramifications of this are massive. And what I want to say to you today is that you have a finite amount of energy. And what you need to do is to to audit your energy. You have to identify where it's going. And so what I did is, I think Craig Rochelle recommends a scale of +5 to -5. But what I did is I had a notes file that said Anthony Energy Audit. And I listed every major thing every single day that gave me energy, that gave me life, that inspired me, that encouraged me, that was like a shock to my system, that like recharged my battery. I gave it on a scale of 0 to +10. And everything that was like negative in my life, I labeled it on a scale of 0 to -10. And I just kept track, and you got to kind of be like a scientist on yourself. And it's a little awkward at first because you're not used to just like taking energy readings on yourself, on your life and stuff, but it gets habitual. And it was one of the most enlightening things I have ever done in my entire life. And that's what I'm here to share with you. And so that's all you do is you get your best recording device, whether it's a notes file on your phone, whether it's a pen and paper you just keep in your pocket. And as you go through the day, if you experience something that's like a jolt of like, oh man, I love doing this. Like this is so cool. Whether it's like a funny YouTube video or something that makes you laugh or something that inspires you or just something that has a positive benefit in your life, rate it on a scale of 0 to +10. and make a note of it. Like for me, it was, running was like a positive 10. Watching inspirational YouTube videos is like a positive 9. Like listening to music that pumps me up is like a positive 8. Making music is like a positive 42. But every one of us is different. And so you gotta identify the things in life that give you life, that energize you, that inspire you, that add to your bandwidth, that add to your capacity to live this thing called life. Because what works for me might not work for you. And okay, so that's the first step. Find the things in your life that add energy, add life, that give to you, that contribute to, that add to your batteries, your life batteries charge. Okay. And then oh, thanks so much, Patrick, brother. Oh, it's so great to see you, man. Absolutely. Like I said earlier in the broadcast, I went around for like 2 years telling people I made up this idea when in fact it was Craig Rochelle in a podcast that I watched. So all credit to Craig Rochelle, but I actually did this in my life and it was one of the greatest things I've ever done. I mean, it's not even close. And then, okay, so you got the first part. You identify and track the things that give you life and energy, okay? Write them down. Now, part B, identify the things in your life that suck your soul, okay? And everything's gonna be on a scale of 0 to negative 10. Okay? This is a big threshold, right? So negative 10 to positive 10. And I did this list, and I'm just going to be totally honest with you. And when I started identifying the things that were just sapping me, taking from me, there was no return on my investment. There was like nothing. It was just like a black hole of nothingness. Like it just like there was no outcome. Like my best outcome was to like come out of it neutral, right? There was one person attached to all these, and I'm like, something's got to change here. But it was that awareness that helped me pivot and recognize and change and adapt. And so here's the thing, you guys. Once you become in tune with where your emotional energy is at, because like I said, toward the end of the day, our willpower is down, our patience is down, like we're just tired, we're kind of like just kind of getting by, we kind of drift into naps or whatever. I just took a nap like an hour ago. No judgment on naps, God bless naps. I think naps are amazing. Naps are on my positive list. Like as long as I don't go over an hour, it's super beneficial. But there's a point of diminishing return on everything, right? But just this awareness, because guys, life is so hard. Like, it is so hard. And just because we're alive means we're gonna have problems. I said it before, but the only people without problems are in a cemetery. And so we have this tremendous gift of being alive, but it comes with this weight of responsibility and just inherent suffering of being alive. And so in order to make it the best possible outcome for us, we need to kind of like measure and monitor our energy levels like a car. Like you monitor your fuel level on your car. When it gets past a certain point, yeah, it might be fun at first to see like how far past the E you can get, but like at a certain point, you're just going to run out. And that's what happens to so many people in the middle of a day or at the end. I mean, and then you just lose it on your spouse, your partner, your kids, your coworkers, whatever, the person on the road. Like one person does something kind of minor on the road, but you just lose it on them because that was the end. Like what's that expression? I'm at my wit's end. What you're saying is that you have no more capacity in your life battery, and you don't ever want to let it get that low. And I'm not saying we should just live selfishly and just make sure that our own life batteries are always full. But there's a reason why when you're in a plane and you go through the safety brief and they say, in the event of decompression in the cabin, you put your oxygen mask on first. Why? Because if you're dead and can't breathe, you're of no use to anyone else. So in fact, if you really care about your loved ones that you're with when you're flying, you have to put on that oxygen mask yourself first. It's not selfish. Moms, you have the hardest time with this. You think if you're doing anything beneficial for yourself that like you're somehow cheating your kids or cheating your spouse or whatever. Like we have to take care of ourselves, my friends. All of us. It's our responsibility. Knowing is half the battle. Okay? And so now that awareness, once you have awareness, you're already in the right direction. And then it's a matter of becoming a scientist on yourself, like kind of observing yourself, like, oh, that, and then you know what else happens? You start to get in tune with your emotions. Like you start, like, how am I feeling like right now? Why am I feeling like this? Cause hey, here's something that's kind of uncomfortable. Monitor how you feel when you leave certain people's houses or have a certain text exchange or phone conversation with them. After that conversation, check in with yourself. Like, how are you feeling? Okay? Cause like, it's uncomfortable, but the truth will set us free. The truth will always set us free, and lies will always keep us in bondage. There are some people in our lives that we have to be very careful that we don't cross that point of diminishing return, because all of a sudden we go in with a 50% battery charge, and left alone, we can make it through the rest of the night. That's cool. But all of a sudden you come into contact with this person or this family member, or you go to the store, and every time you go to this particular store, it's a nightmare, right? Like, just monitor that stuff, right? Because all of a sudden you go to that particular store at that particular time of day, right? Where everybody's low on their batteries, or on the freeway at the particular time of day. Like, there's some things that are unavoidable, right? But you can manage your energy in such a way that you can plan for it. Okay. So say you get done with work and your battery's at a 50% level, right? But then you recognize that if you go to this store right now, it's going to take you all the way down to 0 or 15%. And then you're going to walk through the door just desperate, languishing, about to like just lose it on somebody. Whereas if you wait to go to that store, wait to have that conversation, wait to engage with that person that's kind of hard and heavy on you until you're in a better place, you have more of a reserve, you like, it changes your life. I'm not kidding. And so but you have to write this stuff down, because guys, our minds were never created for long-term memory use. That's not their purpose. Like, we have like our fight or flight where we have a situation, we burn our hand on a stove. Our brains never forget that. Pain is the fastest way to create synapses in our brains, so that we'll never forget it. You don't have to take a college course on why you shouldn't put your hand on a hot stove after you've burned your hand on a hot stove. You know, like, that's bad. That's, you know, and so your brain remembers stuff like that long term for like survival, you know, as like a security system to keep us safe. Cause let's face it, like, without that, like, oh man, there's a reason Jesus called us sheep. All right. We'll just say that. But the point is, as far as like this kind of little stuff, like a grocery list, or just like an energy audit, if you try to remember this stuff day to day, that is sapping your energy, ironically. Because what happens is, like, so say for example, if you have any question about this, and I'm going to wrap this up, I'm going to have it, like, try to do it a little bit quicker today. If I gave you like a 10-digit number and I said, hey, if you remember this for the rest of the day, like for 24 hours, I will give you $1 million cash, but you can't write it down and you have to just remember it using your own memory. All right. What would your life look like? Like, it would be consumed with thinking about this number and holding on to it for 24 hours, right? What else would you be able to do and function well in? Not much. Yet that's what so many of us are doing every single day. We're trying to juggle all this information when that's all we got to do is write it down. Like, that's all we got to do is write it down. And with this energy audit, it is no exception, because you may think that you're recording in your mind, oh, this is like a +9, this is like a -8, this is like a +7, whatever. But like, do you know the parts of your brain that are affiliated with your memory are right next door to the part of your brain that's associated with imagination? That's why it is so unreliable to have like one witness, like, testifying. It's like statistically, like, it's crazy how inaccurate we are as humans inherently, yet we convince ourselves that we're really sure. Like, we know what's going on. So my point is, if you will just simply write down what you're experiencing on an emotional level day by day, on a scale of +10 to -10, instances, going through the drive-thru, Maybe it's Starbucks. Maybe that's a +5 for you. Like I like going to Starbucks because I know I'm going to get caffeinated and whatever. And so just what you end up having at the end of this exercise is a list of things that you don't have to think of when your battery's just about dead. Because let me ask you this: how creative and resourceful and innovative. Hey, what's up, Suba? Great to see you, man. Dude, brother. Awesome. Thanks for joining, man. Like at the end of this exercise, we're talking about energy management and just auditing your life and just recognizing the things in life that really recharge you and things that really drain you. And I have to use a scale, like a number scale. You can go as generic as like a plus or a negative, but I think you want to get a little bit more specific than that. But, at the end of the day, when you have like maybe 20 things that really recharge you and like 20 things that you really just, that sucks your soul dry, all of a sudden you check in with yourself and you're like, oh, I got 50% battery. What tasks do I still need to do? And how can I incorporate those with this 50% battery? So if you have a really soul sucking task that's going to take you all the way down to 0, don't do that task that day if at all possible, right? Do something or do something that'll recharge you. Going to the gym, going for a run, going for a walk, just getting by yourself. You know, one of the greatest things that I do for myself, I hope I have some here. I put in earplugs because like life is so loud. And I just put earplugs in and then I put shooting headphones over me and that silence recharges me. But the only way I knew about any of these things is I took the time to check in with myself and my activities day to day to recognize those things that recharge me and those things that drain me. And because once you have this list, say you have 20 things on the positive side, 20 things on the negative side. Say you have that list. Now, when your battery is low, you don't have to recreate the wheel and say, what should I do now to make myself feel better? No, because when you're down, when you're like your battery's like about to die, that's not the time you don't have any bandwidth left to even think. But you have this list that you created from your own experience that says, let me just try to put some earplugs in. All of a sudden, you go from like 15% to like 18%. You're like, oh man, that really worked. Maybe I'll put on a motivational YouTube videos, you know? And, Suba, that's so cool, man. I'm so happy to hear that. Life is so loud. I think we could all do so much for ourselves by just taking the time to be in solitude, to be in silence. And my hearing, it's amazing because I played music for a long time and I was so abusive to my poor ears. But yet to this day, I am so hypersensitive. I can hear somebody, I can like literally feel it in my body when somebody slams a car door up the block. Like I can feel it resonate in me. And so it's kind of like a miracle, but I have to put in earplugs. I have to put those in and then I have to put shooting headphones over it. So these like block out like 30 dB and then shooting headphones block out another 30 dB. But in that solitude, in that quiet, in that peace, like you're talking about, Suba, I'm just slow. It's not like a quick charge, but man, I'm not losing anything more. It's almost like that's the first time I can hear myself think. And so there's just a gradual filling of that battery so I don't get all the way down to 0, right? And then you're going to find things that work for you. You're going to find things that don't work for you. And that's why I'm so hesitant when I see somebody having a hard time. I want to encourage them so bad and I want to share all the things that work for me. But guess what? We're all so different that we have to find our own paths to recharge. We have to find our own things that do it because what might recharge you will suck the life out of me. Like being in crowds. Like I used to love going to concerts, being in crowds and just like going crazy in mosh pits and stuff. And now that's like, just so, you know, or driving on the freeway during rush hour. It just is like soul sucking. I have to compensate to do something that recharges me after those activities. But you have to find those things that suck your soul. You have to identify them. How much do they? And then you have to find those things that recharge you, right? Because here's the beauty of it. Like in life, like go with me here, just like on a little fantasy trip. Like if you have a partner or if you have kids or you have family or whatever, and you find something that's soul sucking to you and you're just like, you just share it. Like I hate doing this. All of a sudden somebody close to you says, well, I love doing that. And first of all, you're like, how can anybody love doing that? Right? Let them. Let them do the things that they love to do that you hate, and vice versa. And like, can you imagine if we all did that? Like, I fantasize about a world where all of us are doing those things that we love to do. Because I am convinced that, like, if we would just identify those things that we do that make, like, so for example, I love making music. I still suck at it. I'm an amateur at best, but time just flies by. It energizes me. I could do it for 12 hours a day and not get tired. Like, I absolutely love it. Yeah. Yeah, dude, Suba, awesome to hear that, brother. Awesome to hear that. I'm so encouraged by that. And thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. And find those things that you do, that you love to do, that recharges you. Because, guys, can you imagine a world where we're not all just barely getting by with the pedal to the ground, just hoping that our battery makes it to the end of the day and that we don't die in the middle of the road and just lose our stuff on our kids or our spouse or our family members or whatever? Like, can you imagine if we were all able to recharge ourselves and to regulate ourselves and to not allow ourselves to just go all the way to a drained, dead battery where we just hate life? Because, like, man, life's so short, guys. 10 out of 10 of us aren't making it out of here alive. And, like, life is going to be hard. But let's not make it harder than it needs to be. And let's check in with ourselves and recognize where our batteries and where our energy is at any given moment. And then when we experience something that really adds to our life, write it down. Give it a value, a number value. You don't have to go to 10, go to 5, go to 2, 3, whatever works for you. Okay? And then when something is really difficult for us, that's soul sucking, write it down, identify it, but keep that list. Do not listen to this, think it's a great idea, and then not write it down. Oh, that would be exasperating for me. That would suck my soul. Because, guys, you have to write stuff down. I have a mantra I'm going to share with you. If you take it to heart, as I have, it'll change your life. If I don't write it down, it doesn't exist. If I don't write things down, they do not exist. Go to the grocery store and try to remember everything that's on your list, just for fun. Like, if you have 100% charge and you're like, oh, I think I want to waste my life battery, just go to the grocery store and try to remember every single thing that you were supposed to get at the grocery store. If you have a photographic memory and you have a brilliant mind and a memory, I don't know why you're listening to this. Okay? God bless you. All the power to you. That's wonderful, right? But for all the rest of us, we got to write stuff down. Now, take that same trip to the grocery store, but have a list that's all written down. Night and day difference. You don't have to expend all this energy in the store. What was that again? Oh, but that's over here. Whatever. You want to know how much of a nerd I am? I make my grocery list in the order of the sections that I will go to in the store. I imagine the store and I will create, but you don't got to go that hardcore with it. But it makes my trips to go to the store so much easier. Enjoyable. In fact, when I go there, I'm not racking my brain trying to remember things. I actually get to be present and in the moment, and my eyes and my outward gaze is around me, and I get to observe people, and I get to say hello to people and smile, right? And this is the outcome of having a list, having things written down where we don't have to recreate the wheel in our life every day. Last thing, have you ever had a computer back in the day where you had so much RAM, you had so many windows open that everything started bogging down? Like, everything was just like slower and slower and slower. And just to get one click, it was like molasses. Is terrible, right? That is our brains without writing things down. That is what our brains look like if we just keep everything bouncing around up here. It takes up all that bandwidth, which again is finite. We only have a limited amount, each one of us. And it's taking up all that bandwidth, so we don't have any left over for anything else. For sure not to be creative, right? And so, my friends, live life the best it can be. It's going to be hard. Guaranteed. Guaranteed it's going to be hard. But it doesn't have to be harder than it needs to be, right? Do an energy audit in your life. Recognize the things that are energizing you. Write them down. Make a list. Recognize the things that are sucking your soul dry. Write them down. Make a list. And manage your life emotions accordingly. That's all I have. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all the encouragement. I love you guys so much. I'm so grateful. If this has helped, I'd love any thoughts on how, especially when you put it into practice. Any feedback, any thoughts, anything you're struggling with, shoot me a message, put a comment in. But thank you guys so much for watching. It is the honor of my life that anybody would want to take this most precious thing of life called time and share it with me voluntarily, and in the hope or expectation or, that I would have something of value. Like, it's such an honor, and I don't take that lightly, and I can't thank you enough, and I'm looking forward to the next time. See you guys Thursday, and thanks again. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.